Good evening. How is everyone tonight? Excellent. I'd like to invite Shannon Scott for tonight's invocation.
In church on Sunday. Sunday's a good day to be in church, right, with Easter here. And I want to say thank you to our city workers and all that you do. Thank you very much. We appreciate your work. Father, we thank you tonight that we can gather here together in safety. And Lord, we're grateful and thankful for all the work that the city, workers do from every station, every aspect of the service, those that are in government, those that help with the police and the safety there, and Lord, for our fire department. And Lord, we just have a great group of people that help to keep us safe in this city. We're thankful for that. So we want to say thank you. We thank you for the schools and the teachers and the hospitals and all the first responders. Thank you for them. And Lord, we ask you tonight for wisdom and discernment for these people. They have a business that's important to us and to our city. And we're asking you tonight, would you give them favor, give them the words to speak, give them the right thoughts, help them as they cooperate and they work together. I pray that you'd be at the center of all that they say and all that they do. And Lord, help us, keep us safe, look after our city in every way, be with the citizens of this city, that they would take responsibility for their community and what they should do in light of, cooperation in the city. We thank you for your goodness and thank you for all that you do for us. Be with this city and the workers tonight, we pray. In Jesus' precious name, amen. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Before you guys sit down, I was trying to get on the mic before you guys all sit down. Councilmember Casillas, would you lead us in the pledge? Okay, thank you. Okay, at this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Individuals wishing to address the City Council are requested to complete a speaker card and deliver it to the City Clerk staff prior to the item being heard by the City Council. Please observe a 3-minute time limit for communications, and once called upon to speak, please state your name and city of residence for the record. So some proclamations, recognitions, and presentations this evening. I'd like to call up Rita Jackson, the One Legacy Ambassador, to receive tonight's proclamation. Welcome. Hello, hello. So we have in the city of Corona, the month of April is Donate Life Month. And I'm going to read this, and then I'll let you speak if that's all right. Great. So whereas April 2023 is Donate Life Month, whereas organ, tissue, marrow, and blood donation are life-giving acts recognized worldwide as expressions of compassion to those in need. And whereas more than 100,000 individuals nationwide and more than 20,000 in California are currently on the National Organ Transplant Waiting List, and on average, 17 people die each day while waiting. And whereas the need for donated organs is especially urgent in Hispanic, Latino, and African American communities, and whereas a single individual's donation of the heart, lungs, liver, kidneys, pancreas, and small intestine can save up to 8 lives. And whereas donation of the tissue can save and heal the lives of more than 75 others. And whereas organ donors saved more than 42,000 lives last year, the most ever. And whereas any person can register to be an organ, eye, tissue donor, regardless of age, medical conditions, being a registered donor does not impact the quality of life-saving medical care a person receives in an emergency. And whereas California residents can sign up with Donate Life California Donor Registry online at any time by visiting www.donatelifecalifornia.org, or for Spanish speakers, donavida.california.org, and California residents interested in saving a life through kidney donation may visit www.livingdonationcalifornia.org. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Tony Daddario, on behalf of the City of Corona, do hereby proclaim the month of April as DMV Donate Life Month in the City of Corona, and in doing so, we encourage all Californians to check yes online when applying for renewing their driver's license or ID card at the DMV. This is especially important to me, a very good friend of mine. I mentioned about 2 years ago, needed a heart transplant. And after being on the list for about 3 years, there was a match, and very successfully, he has been living his best life after receiving that much-needed heart transplant. So very special to me, very happy for the proclamation, and I'll hand over the mic to you.
Thank you so much. I am so grateful for this opportunity. This is the first time meeting you. I knew you were our mayor, and I do live in the city. I know some of the council members already. My name is Rita Jackson, but more importantly, I'm Jasmine's mom. I love it when people call me that. I'd rather be called Jasmine's mom than Rita Jackson. This is Jasmine. Thank you. This is my precious girl. She actually made the decision to register all on her own when she was 17 and got her driver's license. That day when she came straight home from the DMV, I was shocked because most teenagers would probably want to go tell all their friends they passed the driver's test. I asked her, wow, you don't seem that excited about getting your license. And she all of a sudden got really excited and ran over to her purse and pulled out the paperwork from the DMV and said, "Look, Mom, I'm registered to be a donor." At that moment, I was like, I didn't even know she was thinking about that, but that was Jasmine. Jasmine was always thinking of others, so I don't know why that would surprise me. But of course, as a mom, it took me back. I'm just like, that's great, but I don't want to think about that. I told her I was proud of her. 3 short years later, on April 25th of 2013, Jasmine walked into the house, sat on the couch next to me, and I could tell she was having problems breathing. Jasmine was only with me about 10-15 minutes when she took a big gasp and collapsed in my arms as she said, "Help me, Mom." Those were her last breaths. We ran her to Kaiser Riverside. They did all they could. But the coroner actually ruled that she had a pulmonary embolism, and that means that there was a blood clot that went to her lungs. There was nothing they could have done. There was no warning. There wasn't any signs of what had happened. But to lose your only child at the young age of 20, the next couple of years were literally hell. The organization One Legacy supports the donor families from the minute they contact them. The call was to our family approximately 12 hours after she passed. The organization does everything they can to let you know that they are the first and foremost concerned about the families before they even discuss why they're actually calling. But once they do have to make sure that you understand what's going on with this person. They want to make sure that the family's comfortable with the decision that has been made, especially when the person's made that decision themselves and maybe not told anybody. In our case, my sister took the call and she didn't have to hesitate at all. I could tell what the call was about because she said, yes, my niece wanted to be a donor. Yes, she wants to help everybody she can. Please, don't ask me any more questions. You can take whatever you can. As far as what we wanted to do to honor my daughter when she passed, we didn't even know when the donation was done. Evidently, it was done at the coroner's office, and then my daughter was able to, went to a funeral home and did what we needed to do. There wasn't any skipping of any beat regarding our family. But those 2 years, I would get letters from One Legacy. I got a phone call from One Legacy. But I felt like I was not here anymore. And on our Angelversary, I didn't want to be here anymore. It was that day that the letter from one of her recipients came. An 18-year-old girl who was writing us to let us know that she had torn her ACL running track for her high school. And when she tore her ACL almost 2 years earlier, it took 2 surgeries and several several hours of rehab, but she was able to recover, and it was because of that that she was writing us. She said her mom and dad wanted us to know how grateful they were because of the decision my daughter made. That girl was not only on the varsity track team, but she had just received a college scholarship. That letter saved my life. I was ready to call it over. But knowing that my daughter achieved her goal of helping others, that has allowed me to go on for another 8 years. This April's 10 years that my child has passed. And for 10 years, I've been speaking to people like you and explaining that this is not just the fact that you can actually save lives, which now we're up to 9, by the way, because your liver can be split between an adult and a child. So one person could save 9 lives potentially. And my daughter touched 35 people with her tissue donation. And one of those people was a 13-year-old girl who was on her deathbed, and she received my daughter's heart valves. So because of my baby girl, that mom didn't have to say goodbye to her daughter. So I will continue to advocate for this very important cause, and I ask you all to go to donatelifecalifornia.org, and you can read stories like Jasmine's, and if you put /Jasmine, you'll read her story in particular. And please consider it. Just go there and read and consider it. And if you are already registered, please let your family know. Because when that call comes, nobody wants to think about it. At least this way, it's already been discussed. I appreciate your time, Mayor. Thank you, council members. And I'm sure this isn't the last you'll see of me. Thank you so much.
Thank you. How about you, Jasmine? Oh, thank you. Okay. So the next recognition that we would like to do is for the winners of the Corona Fast Pitch Competition. At this point, I would like to invite Dean Safe from the Corona Chamber of Commerce to the podium to receive the recognition. And you want to do it right there? No, right up here, fine, come on. Although you got such nice hair, I don't really want to stand next to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor Daddario and council members. My name is Dean Safe. I'm the chairman of the board for the Corona Chamber of Commerce and also a small business owner here in Corona. We are thrilled to have such a great partnership with the city of Corona and for the Chamber's Innovation Committee to put on events like yesterday's Fast Pitch competition. I'm having a hard time speaking after this. This heartbreaking. I would like to congratulate and thank all the participants in yesterday's competition. And it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Tim Gramling, the Dean of the Jabs School of Business at Cal Baptist University and Chair of the Chamber's Innovation Committee. Dr. Gramling.
Good evening, everyone. Oh, let me try that again. Good evening, everyone. All right, thank you so much. Before I begin my remarks, I'd be remiss if I didn't also testify that I'm very grateful to the city for this notion of this Donate Life Month, because just last month, my brother received a kidney that saved his life from a deceased donor. So I thank you all so much for recognizing this extremely important need. So with that, thank you again, Dean, and thank you to all who attended yesterday's incredible fast pitch competition. Corona is home, as you know, to over 400 manufacturers, and we are thrilled that we can take part in Riverside County's fast pitch competition to show off some of the talent that this city has. I wanted to thank all of our incredible committee members that helped organize this event, along with our board of directors and members who donated the cash prizes that will be distributed to our winners. And who can forget our judges? Thank you so much to the 5 judges who joined me and took up the hard work of having to judge the pitches that we heard. And thank you also to all who voted in the audience portion of the competition. Before we jump into the awards, I wanted to thank the companies that pitched in the order they presented. So please join me in a round of applause, first for Protectotherm, Competitive Swimmer, PPC Ad Editor, Gen Innovation, and Guava. Participants will receive a feedback sheet with top comments from the judges as well as their final score. All are winners for pitching their innovation to our community, and we hope you get a chance to meet them today after the council meeting. So, of course, before I end my remarks and turn it over to our mayor, we wanted to wish the first place winner good luck as they pitch at the Riverside County finale, and hope you all can come and cheer them on. Now for the moment you've all been waiting for the announcement of our top 3.
Okay, so you guys are going to open the envelope? Oh, I get to do that. All right. Okay, here we go. So, yeah, it was indeed a great opportunity to listen to these businesses pitch their ideas. So in third place is PPC Ad Editor. Are they going to come up? Come on. There you go. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh.
Okay, so there is just one little update that I wanted to make mention of. The prize money originally was $3,500, and through some generous donations, the actual total prize pool was increased to $4,500, which is really good because the difference between second and first place wasn't big, and we wanted to make sure that second place actually received a little bit more money than they normally would. So we decided that second place is going to receive $1,500 of the $4,500 prize pool, and second place went to Gen Innovation.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, that's for you guys as well. Thank you very much. Congratulations, guys. All right, so that leaves us with first place winner, if I did my math correctly. So the first place is going to receive $3,000 and a chance to pitch in the Riverside County finale on April 27th for a top prize of $10,000. And the first place winner went to Guava.
Thank you.
This one's for you. Here, come down this way, guys. I would recommend for those of you in the audience to remember both of those names, because very quickly you will see them popping up very soon. So don't forget them. Okay, next we have a presentation on the McKinley grade separation update. Savat Kampu, Public Works Director, will provide the presentation.
All right. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of the City Council. I'm glad to be here tonight with Joshua Cosper with Mark Thomas to provide you with a quarterly project update on the McKinley Street grade separation. We'll also be joined with Ashley Zaratoga as well with Economic Development later on, and she'll provide an update on our businesses as well as too. I know it's been 6 months since our last quarterly update, but we wanted time with to time this with the start of construction. Okay. So tonight we will touch on the overpass project status. This includes where we are at with the utility relocations, construction, and overall traffic handling and detours. A look ahead on construction activities, right-of-way status, have economic development speak about support that they are providing local businesses, public outreach, what we have done, or what we will be doing regarding public outreach during construction, and finally, our next steps. Okay, we presented this slide in the last few of the quarterly updates, so to refresh your memory, all the major utilities, including AT&T, shown in orange, gas companies shown in yellow, Riverside Public Utilities shown in blue, and Southern California Edison shown in red there, have been completed as of August 2022. There you go. So what does that look like? So here's an aerial looking northwest over the Estelle intersection from last summer. You can see the poles highlighted in yellow, and overhead electrical have been removed and undergrounded. Gas, electric, and Riverside Public Utilities have been completed. Underground work shown in yellow here, right there. There you go. And Riverside Public Utilities located in the remaining water line improvements here in yellow. Get backwards here. They're in yellow. So what do we have left? There we go. So let's talk about the construction.
Hello? Yep, sure. Perfect. So what else have we done? You can see there's some of the piles, specifically the rebar cage that was set. This is kind of a little bit of a slideshow that you'll see of how that was set. So you can see the actual cranes lifting the rebar cage up. All four have been set now. This is actually getting placed at the southeast corner. Again, continuously placing with the actual crane dropping the cage inside, and that's what it looks like afterwards, ready for the columns to be poured. Here's kind of a nice aerial, but we've actually mobilized onto the west side and actually poured those piles as well, and starting to move into some other work on the west side. One of the big things too is we'd just recently removed the Carl's Jr. sign, got that out of the way and worked with that business owner as well. So we're kind of moving forward to getting ready for the preparation for some sewer and water construction that'll happen the next couple of weeks, as well as retaining walls along the west side of McKinley. So what you don't get to see is the amount of work that happens in the fabrication for the steel of the bridge. Along the top, you can see elements of the fabrication shop in Washington State where the steel is currently being fabricated. The bottom pictures are the backbone of the bridge, basically the steel tie girders that support the bridge along the bottom of it. Here's a good view along the side view of a bridge with the tie girders highlighted in yellow. Here's some bridge elements too. The top two in the upper left and the bottom three are the the support braces and the support diaphragm components along the bridge bottom between the tie girders and floor beams. The upper right-hand corner are the brackets that'll support the sidewalk along that cantilevers off the east side of the bridge. On the right side here, you can see a good bird's eye view of what the bridge support system looks like along the floor of the bridge. And what's pretty incredible, I think, granted I'm an engineer, so bear with me, is along the left side, you can see a lot of the fasteners and the shuriken bolt system. Overall, what's kind of neat about that is that there's going to be tens of thousands of these bolted and welded connections on the bridge. And so a lot of that has been moving forward over, the last couple of months. Also some things that are also working behind the scenes is with all the construction going on, just wanted to recommend some of the detour. Some of what's going on with the construction activities. The yellow is the current work activities that are going on. Essentially, it's the basically what's the temporary traffic control is closing off the yellow, and that's where we're working. And the shopping center to the east, which is the former Food for Less, it'll still have access from Estelle and also where the donut shop is just to the north as we're opening that up. Pedestrian access will be maintained along the east side of the road, and that effectively you'll have one through lane in the south, or two through lanes in the southbound and one through lane in the north. As we get into the north of Sampson, which many of you have seen right now, similarly, we have one through lane each direction. The Carl's Jr. and Taco Bell shopping center there to the left, it's got a right through entrance that you can see in the splicing the yellow. That is currently open. That to the east, you should have the same access you had currently where the existing shopping center and the Shell gas station is, and that the pedestrian access can actually cross. You can kind of see along the bottom side there of the yellow. You can still cross along the north side of Sampson for pedestrians. So now I want to review the detour again. You can see in the image above, Promenade Avenue is the primary north-south detour to avoid McKinley. Between Promenade and Magnolia Avenue. Additionally, Magnolia is a good connector between both the 91 freeway and the I-15 if you use McKinley to connect to the 91 freeway. So as part of efforts to help increase awareness of the detour, since we're switching to Stage 1B, we've implemented a lot of several elements, just kind of, you learn this over working with traffic, that it's kind of this continuous effort of no matter how best you model it, it's just, there's an adaptation period of time. And so what's it start with? Well, we've added a lot more advanced warning signage all up and down throughout the area to help kind of guide people along the detour routes. We added signs along Hidden Valley, Magnolia, Sampson, and Promenade to help encourage some of the detour movement in advance. We've also moved to changeable messaging signs, which, further in advance that you'll see flashing messages of what to do with 2 sets of flashing messages. Although you can't really see it in these pictures here, it's really unfortunate because it's just how the photos are taken, but we assure you that the messages are working. Signage restricting trucks around between Magnolia and McKinley have been included to reduce congestion, and in some cases, it's helped out a great deal throughout this. Really, that just kind of maintaining and trying to help get this advance warning out there has really been very good. Hand-delivered customized truck detour notifications and maps to businesses within the project area. And this also includes project information posted on the project website sent out through the social media and miscellaneous different efforts of just trying to get it out to the community. Similarly, we've updated and prepared customized detour maps and instructions. Again, you can see some of the scripts or the images that are on the city's website right now. And we're currently working on similar exhibits that'll help guide drivers to the businesses north of State Route 91 to be delivering as we're moving forward. We're also So what are some of the upcoming activities? It's actually starting to happen as of this week, especially now that the wet and the rain season looks like it's letting up. There's going to be significant water, sewer, and storm drain construction that's going on. So the picture in the upper right-hand corner is a good indication of how big the 30-inch water line is going to actually be, and that's with respect. You can see the people that are next to it. That is an actual 30-inch line out there. The lower right-hand corner is a good picture of how it's going to look from a trenching perspective. It's going to involve a large trench box, as you see, and these lines are going to be fairly deep, 10+ feet deep. Also, here's a good area of what some of the walls that are going to go up in terms of the MSC walls. This is a good view of what the permanent would be along the west side. Similarly, this is what you would see in terms of a temporary retaining wall. We're going to see lots of these start to go up over the next couple of months, particularly. This is actually the Hamner Avenue Bridge construction in Norco currently, but this is just a good indication of what you're going to start to see. Again, we're going to continue through the fabrication process. One thing that we can kind of talk about is as we start to see the fabrication, there'll be a period of time in the near future of the on-site mobilization, the bridge move, which starts with large flatbed trucks moving these in. And then what I actually really can't wait to see, you only get to see this once or twice in your career as an engineer, is what's called the self-propelled modular transports, similar to what you see in the lower right-hand corner. So really, what do? Well, here's a picture of a similar bridge in Detroit, and you can see those SPMTs. They actually will lift the bridge as it's been fabricated on site and assembled on site. It'll actually cross Sampson, cross the channel, cross the railroad tracks, and move it in place over a couple of weekends in the near future. But this is kind of a similar operation of just something that was recently constructed for a similar tied arch network bridge in Detroit. You could see there in the lower right-hand corner, the SPMTs are moving it. And eventually it gets set, they raise them up and set them into place where it's then officially kind of assembled and the decking is poured and whatnot. One of the things we're kind of working through is with how the economy's going. We've been noticed of a potential delay with some of the fabrication, so we're currently working through that process right now to understand what that means. But we're trying to work, including tomorrow, we have an all-day partnership meeting with the contractor of how best to kind of keep the project going because of some of the delays. So what's going on with the right-of-way? So on the left, this is a snippet everybody's seen for several months, almost a year and a half now, of what we post on the city's website. You could see the link below to that. That's a summary of pretty much the status of the property acquisition and the business acquisition. So since August, we've closed 3 more properties entirely with settlements and 11 more businesses. So that leaves only 3 remaining properties and 3 remaining businesses entirely until Tony, our Mayor Daddario done. And so with that said, I'd like to turn it over to Ashley to talk a little bit about the economic development support.
Thank you, Josh. So we really wanted to highlight some of the ways that economic development is offering support on this project and making sure that we're connecting with the business community. So to date, we've connected with 78 businesses within the area. So this could look like phone calls, in-person visits, emails, just continuing that dialogue to make sure they're aware of the many ways that the city of Corona can help and support these businesses. And it's been a really good opportunity to hear their stories, to hear about the pride of being in Corona, why they selected us as a city to do business. And this has been a really good opportunity to also highlight them. So one of the ways that we've offered support, in the next slide, I'm going to go into more detail about the ways our department's been helping. But one of those business spotlights, so we've done 3 so far and have 5 underway. Those are listed in the pictures above of some of the examples of what that looks like in our newsletter. And it's been a really great way to highlight their history here, their legacy, what they've been able to do, and how we can encourage the Corona community to come out and do business. We recognize that there is some different detours they'll have to navigate when they enter there, but we're really trying to continue that dialogue. We're also making sure that we incorporate that interactive map. So part of this too is things are changing in real time as far as detours are going. And sometimes we've heard from these businesses firsthand, my client didn't realize there's a new detour, they didn't understand, they don't know how to get connected. And so now we're working with them and informing their clients, this is the best, most efficient way to get to your business. And you can still continue to pull forward. And so we've been really excited to be able to help them in that capacity. So that was just a snapshot of how we've been able to help thus far. But when we've done this outreach and we've done those phone calls and even a couple sessions with in partnership with Public Works and the consultant, we offer these key things here. So it's the targeted business promotion that we talked about in the newsletter with over 12,000 subscribers. They also get to tap into resources by being subscribed to that newsletter. So it's a really great opportunity for them to understand how can they better market themselves utilizing social media, how can they tap into different opportunities so that they can make sure to grow on an e-commerce, not just having the brick and mortar. So again, having those opportunities, doing that spotlight for them, doing social media posts, and again, just different ways that we can utilize social media as a tool to inform people and to get their name out there. We also offer workforce support, so if there's opportunity for them, if they need subsidized training, on-the-job training opportunities, or connecting into Live Work Corona, again, we're understanding that there's long-term vision for these businesses, so how can we continue to be of service to them? The last thing is also tapping into funding opportunities, whether it's going to be through our own department as a city or whether it's through our external partners. So the first is we're developing some small business grants and we're really focusing on business resiliency, education, and support, and we're launching those later this year. And these external grants and funding, we connect them a lot to our Riverside County partner. They have a Business Assistance Now program and have a plethora of resources that they can tap into. So again, it's informing them, having that dialogue, actually having a person for them to connect with. So we don't just send them to a resource, we send them to another name, another person that they can work with. So we've been really looking forward to the different ways that we can partner with them and help them. And this is just a snapshot of the many ways that we're trying to support the businesses there. And with that, I'd like to pass along to Savant. I'm not sure if his microphone, he's right behind me, sorry about that. Pass along where he's going to talk about additional outreach and how they're going to continue to inform the public with the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. I'm going to try it up here since my microphone gave out over there. All right. So we conducted numerous in-person and virtual public outreach meetings, including the most recent in-person on January 24th, earlier this year. The next outreach meeting will be sometime at the end of this month or May of this year, and it will be virtual. We're toggling back and forth here just to make sure that we get the maximum amount of attendance here. We will also continue to implement the text program, which we have over 400 people subscribing to it. Just text McKinley to 844-518-1409, again, to stay in the loop if you want to join. We continue sending out public broadcasts and outreach notices through the city's social media on a bi-monthly basis, updating on look-aheads and achievements. We continue continue active monitoring of the project hotline and emails. And also we continue with updates to the interactive web-based map showing the anticipated traffic detours and lane closures that was posted on the city's website. And lastly, we will continue with routine aerial drone, time lapses, and other photography throughout the construction of the project to share with the public. So what are the next steps? We'll continue with the construction activities as we discussed earlier, and we'll also continue to our partnership meetings with the contractor to identify ways to continue to minimize costs and accelerate the construction schedule. And lastly, we'll continue our public outreach efforts for the project. So with that said, I'll open up to any questions you may have. Thank you.
Do my colleagues have any questions? Okay, Councilmember Speak. and then
Thank
we'll
you.
go
I
to
just had
Councilmember-
one question. A member of the public asked me about the northbound McKinley at Magnolia. There being just a single lane that for right and left turn and straight. Was there a reason why on the south side of Magnolia that we would have that restriction?
Yeah, it's because it tapers into one lane north of McKinley as it is now. And so you're trying to neck down, you're talking about the one through lane that goes northbound?
Yeah, so basically there's just one lane for all movements.
Yeah, we
that-
can look at if we could open it up to like a right turn onto Magnolia. I'd have to go back and see what the traffic studies had said. You're not going to get a second through lane. We needed enough room on the east side of the road there to work. But yeah, I'll look into that and see if we can get back to you on if there's anything we can do to open up like a right turn or something.
Yeah, I think the frustration was there was people that were waiting to turn right or left, and then there was these artificial backups from there seemed to be room, and I was trying to think of why there'd be a restriction there. I know it's only a single lane, but maybe there should be at least one lane to turn right or left.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that.
Great.
We had a lot of traffic studies done early on, and so we tried to follow what the guidance that came out of that to try to help move it. But I don't have an answer off the top of my head, but
Okay,
for sure.
that's fine.
That seems.
Thank you. I
Yep,
appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you for the update. I know we've been on pins and needles, and I understand, we wanted to wait until we were starting the construction and people were seeing more on the ground. But I do appreciate all of the communication that's happening, and if folks who aren't signed up yet should definitely text to get those text notifications, those emails. You're sending out a lot of communication, and I like that we have all hands on deck. And economic development, great work. My only question is about signal timing. How are we working with maybe traffic management on the actual, like, for instance, like the exiting off of the 91 freeway onto McKinley? There's a big backup to turn if you're heading east to turn right onto McKinley towards Magnolia. And then my other question is, how are we actually enforcing the no trucks on McKinley? Because I personally have witnessed a truck essentially just monopolize that space and not allow for any turning because they couldn't move down on the street.
Yeah, so let me start with the first. We actually charged our engineer of record. Well, actually, I'll back up a step. We actually met with Caltrans in January, right after the last switch of traffic control. And, one of the big movements was what can we do to try to optimize the traffic signal timing? It's not typical Caltrans would want to work with the through traffic. They'd actually want to push a lot of the congestion onto the local roads, so it's not their problem. But they did meet with the city. Savat worked with a lot of his former colleagues to try to help push that. And so we just completed a traffic study. We're getting ready to present that to them of what can be done versus what is out there now. Effectively, we looked at 4 different options, including opening up another lane that traffic could go to just as a direct eastbound off or on-ramp direct connector. There isn't a lot of difference from optimizing all the timing versus what is out there now, but we are presenting it to Caltrans to see if they're open to allowing us to move forward and kind of how to best make that, because even a few more cars per cycle is just that much better. So that should be in the works, and we're hoping to have something pushed through in the next couple of weeks, depending on where Caltrans falls with that. With regards to the trucks and the enforcement, I think we've worked with it, the city police. It's not going to be constant enforcement. It's one of those, as we start to notice there's a growing problem, it's bring them out, but the city does have limited resources on that as well, so it's hard to dedicate resources continuously to stop it. It's kind of one of those things, and I've seen the same thing you've had. It's just once we start seeing it in the field, we react and say, okay, we need about a week of enforcement or however, and then you see the problem go away, and then it starts to come back a little bit, and it's just this endless cat and mouse game. But we are enforcing it. It's just one of those things where it's just going to be cyclical because it gets to be very costly to have this as a nonstop.
I understand. And I think anything that can be done, especially during peak commute hours, would be really appreciated. And listen, this construction, it's never easy. This project, we knew going into it, it's never easy. But what I really do appreciate, and the commitment that we've had from the very beginning, is to have all hands on deck to communicate openly and honestly with folks. And I appreciate that we've kept on that. So thank you for your leadership with that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Edwards, are there any speaker cards from the public for the proclamation, recognitions, or presentation?
Mayor, yes, I have one speaker card for item number 5.
Okay, come on down.
It's Joe Morgan, 2063 Rand. It's great to know Walsh Construction's on board. I don't know, you guys know who Walsh is, right? All this 91 repairs that are had to, it's because of Walsh's fine quality work. They were the contractor for the 91 project, so it's good to know we got a quality company on board. I also want to note that the largest property owners are the ones that aren't settled, and I have to also point out, I've been saying since this first started, what are you going to have when you get done? You can talk about piecing together the steel, and I can appreciate that economic development is trying to do what they do. But again, I'm having echoes back to the 91 project. Oh, hey, look, we got coupons. Hey, look, we got a poster over here. Here's all the businesses we're screwing right now. And meanwhile, they're getting screwed. So you're going to have your ribbon cutting. You're going to say, oh, look at our great new bridge. And then this place will be everywhere besides the bridge will look like Main and Parkridge because you have no plan. You got no plan to fix what you're breaking. You're breaking that whole area. It's broken. I like the undergrounding of the utilities. That'll be nice. There'll be less posters to take off of the power poles in front of AMPM. But that's not necessarily going to make this place better. What's going to happen with the shopping center? I hear all kinds of talk about 6th Street and what you want to do. What's the plan here? Because it's going to be worse. It wasn't terrific before, and then you're making it worse. The shopping center is going to be under a 40-foot bridge, and you have no plans to fix it. You have no plans to put anything there that's going to make that place better or that's going to make people want to go down there. There's no talk about that. It's just like this is, kind of an auxiliary part of Corona that nobody really cares about. I know you live down there, but I don't know that this place is necessarily close to your heart. You know, I can't even really honestly say it's close to my heart, except I know a lot of people down there. I know a lot of those businesses. I know you've met with them. You know, what are you going to have when you get done? What are you going to have? There's no vision, there's no talk, and nothing happens fast. So when you get done, that's not the time to start talking about it. You know, the time to start talking about what you're going to do and how you're going to change it, perhaps a specific plan, some kind of planning decisions about what you're going to do. What is that shopping center going to look like that you're whacking the whole front of it off of? What are they going to, what's going to happen there? You're whacking the whole front of it, there's not going to be any parking. You're going to have this goofy road runner through the middle of it. I get you have to do what you have to do, and you made it better than it was going to be, but what are you going to have when you get done? There's zero vision for that. I haven't heard a bit about it. That's not part of the discussion. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Moving on to meeting minutes. The study session of March 15th, 2023, the city council meeting of March 15th, 2023. Ms. Edwards, are there any speaker cards from the public for the meeting minutes?
Mayor, we do not have any speaker cards.
Do we have a motion?
Make a motion?
I'll second by pushing the button.
I pushed the button.
I pushed the button for second.
Yeah, see, you didn't push the button.
I did. Let's vote. Okay, that item passes 4-0. Normally, we would be moving on to consent calendar, but I'm going to make a switch. We have some folks in the audience that are on their Ramadan journey, which means that they, I think, can eat very soon. So I know I get hangry, so I don't want them to have to wait any longer. So what we're going to do now is move on to communications from the public, and then we will do the consent calendar. So let's see. This portion of the agenda is intended for general public comment on items within the council's jurisdiction that are not listed elsewhere on the agenda. Please note that state law prohibits the city council from discussing or taking action on these items. Please observe a 3-minute time limit for comments, and once called upon to speak, please state your name and city of residence for the record. Ms. Edwards, are there any public speaker cards?
Mayor, we have 7 speaker cards and 2 written comments that were submitted anonymously.
Okay, come on down. Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members and all department heads. Thank you for this exception that you made for us, because it is time for breaking the fast. But we are here really to extend an invitation as every year for our annual Ramadan Iftar dinner, which we are going to have on the 16th of April. And with this wonderful, blessed month of Ramadan, there's nothing better than breaking bread with our friends and neighbors. But also today being the first day of Passover, I want to wish everybody who is celebrating Passover, happy Passover. We have Brother Arthur, so we hope, this is an open invitation. So you are welcome to bring your family and friends and neighbors. Just let us know how many so that we can accommodate that we have enough food available. So that would be, otherwise we don't want to run out of food. That's what we're gathering together for. So hopefully everybody can attend, what we say, inshallah, which means God willing. And we look forward to seeing everybody. So I'd like to have our mosque president, Brother Arthur, say a few words.
Thank you for having us, Mayor and the council members and the audience. We hope to see you all, and bring your families and bring your friends. And like every time, we'll have a good time. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the invite.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Thank you for this opportunity, Mayor Daddario, council members, and this goes out to department heads as well. If you would have told me 35 years ago that I'd be living in Corona, I would have told you it would never have happened. I was in aerospace, and everybody was moving out to Corona and Moreno Valley, paying $60,000, $70,000, and I spent $110,000 on a townhouse in Orange County. Best decision I ever made, best mistake being out here, let me tell you that. First thing I want to say is I submitted a C-click fix just before the last council meeting. A light was not bright and I almost hit somebody. Before I turned around a couple days later, it was fixed. I was amazed. I thought it was just going to be one of those exercises in futility. It wasn't. The second thing, after the last meeting, I went away with just a recognition that I really think needs to be noted. You are amazing. The one thing I have to give you heads of just so much credit for is You sit and listen, and you're very respectful. Other councils have not quite been the same. So that's the first step in anything. And coming away from that meeting, again, you mentioned, I've got permission to say this, for Dale Plung for all his efforts for working on the golf course. I know he had other plans and surprised him. Thank you for recognizing him, because you've made people important in Corona. The second thing is, while I was here, I spoke to Chief Newman and told him about a suggestion I had for a really bad intersection we have here in the city. And before I left the meeting, I spoke with Rosie. And she explained what could be done and maybe not. And then when I was in Citizens Academy last week, we were talking about it. And again, people are important. And Citizens Academy is in itself, the more I learn, the more I realize people are important. The parks are being redone, the Trails Master Plan, you're making everybody important. So what came out of this, and most important in my heart, is RSO. All the effort that people are doing to benefit people here in the Corona, I can't even begin to thank you enough. So what came down to is rebranding effort. The one thing I think you all are missing, in my opinion, is how important you've made the people. It's subtle about everything you're doing for people, but to me, I think it should be absolutely blatant how important you're making people feel in Corona. That's just my suggestion. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you. Good evening.
I'm talking about the short-term rental that we have on our street. This weekend, we had a little bit of an event. So we've had tenants roaming the neighborhood at 1 o'clock in the morning, across the street from the rental itself, coming from my house and my neighbor's house. At 1 in the morning, I'm not sure what they're doing. It appears that they're perhaps casing the area. I don't know. The tenants were yelling at neighbors who were having conversations outside. They were recording us while we're having conversations. They clearly scared all the neighbors. When the neighbors went back to their home, these tenants, with their modified exhaust and their cars, parked in front in the neighbors' driveways and sat there. Clearly, with an intimidation tactic, they went into another neighbor's driveway and sat there smoking, just to intimidate everybody. They set off my car alarm. The vehicle with the modified exhaust went up and down the street consistently till about 4:30 in the morning. Woke up my 10-year-old who was scared. I had to have her sleep in my room so she couldn't hear it. So the police were called, and it just so happened, dumb luck, they drove by when they had moved, and then they came back within minutes after the police had drove by. So this is just a taste of what's to come during the spring and summer and fall. This was exactly what we were concerned about happening. This was in direct retaliation for us filing complaints with the city. The owners were notifying them each and every time and clearly blamed the neighbors. And we are now concerned, and so some will not want to move forward with complaining when there's violations. There's been tons of violations. This particular rental has been nothing but a problem. There was at least 3 or 4 times where there was 6 cars, 9 cars, 10 cars, 12 cars. There were young adults and teens being dropped off all night long. The vehicles that were parking for that home, they were everywhere, which is a direct violation. 4 cars in particular parked directly in front of the rental, blocking their own driveway. It was just a hot mess all night long. We really need to stop this blight of our neighborhood. No one is comfortable. We don't know what to expect. They clearly have no respect, and we feel very threatened. So please, 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 let's reconsider having short-term rentals. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Marty Woleski, and my wife and I live in Corona District 5. This is my first council meeting, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak tonight on behalf of my family and some of my neighbors who are here tonight. A little bit more about us. My wife is a small business owner in Corona, and I personally work in Orange County. Our family has been in the same home since 2010. We love Corona, and we love our home. The key word for me is home. Webster's dictionary defines home as 1, a place of residence, 2, the social unit formed by a family living together, and 3, a familiar or usual setting, a congenial environment. What's going on next to our home is the opposite of a home. It is an Airbnb, and here are the differences the way I see it. 1, it's not the place of residence of the owner. The owner lives in Oregon, and to our knowledge has never lived in Corona. 2, there's no social unit formed by a family living together. It is more like a collection of 2 to 3 day parties that happen every week. 3, the activities at the home are not familiar or usual, and it is not congenial. I think you just heard some examples. But since November, it has led to numerous noise complaints to law enforcement, safety concerns, and nuisance complaints to city officials about cars parked everywhere, and this past weekend, cars speeding all over our neighborhood. The past 5 months has been very unsettling for our family and for our neighborhood. None of us purchased our homes expecting to live by a hotel or a nightclub. We are aware that many communities in our area, including Norco, Eastvale, and Yorba Linda, have created policies to address short-term rentals. We see it as agenda item number 40 here, brought by Councilman Speak. We thank you. We kindly ask you to consider doing the same to address this. We see short-term rentals, will be covered at some point, but I see the TBD on here. We just ask that you do it sooner than later. We believe it's the tip of the iceberg. As our neighbor just said, we've had a rough winter, but now spring and summer are upon us. I think the situation is only going to get worse. So thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Given the gravity of the donor program and the positive aspects of Fast Pitch and the composition and construction of McKinley, I'm going to ask that you consider my comments as part of a balanced operations city perspective. Has anyone on the city council ever called City Hall without announcing who they are and expecting a return call? I doubt it. Living on Drake Street since 1997, we now have essentially an abandoned home with the husband having died and the wife now in the care, custody, and literal physical control of the county. A neighbor and I have worked on the maintenance of the home for actually essentially 11 months. But as you can gather by the way I walk, I've had to essentially negate that due to the physical situation. I called Riverside County, and they picked up in one ring and advised me, after a brief explanation, that I should call Corona because they have responsibility for the program and the responsibility for the home. Now, anyone old enough to remember the Pete Seeger song, "We're Waist Deep in the Big Muddy," and the big spool says, "Push on"? Well, anybody in Vietnam is familiar with that premise because despite the reality of knowing what would happen, we would continue. And that allegorical song was perfect in describing my situation in contacting the city's government. You don't get a return call, but you are tasked with doing it yourself. I contacted City Hall General Information, the Building Inspections Residential, Code Enforcement, Hazard Reduction and Property Maintenance, and not one has ever returned a phone call within 6 working days. I finally called Code Enforcement one time, and I was told I was in the queue. Lovely British phrase, but I don't know what that means because nothing has happened to date. No action. The weeds without amplification are above my knee. Plastic and tarp on the roof, which someone allegedly spent $4,000, is now shedding material. And if you understand and know the broken window theory that is essentially emanating from New York, this home is prime property for squatters. Now, the totality of the situation is you don't get phone calls, you don't get messages, and you don't get return calls. Unless I'm viewed as one of those people, the end result is nothing has happened. Additionally, I contacted Animal Control regarding 2 dogs that are essentially abandoned in a concrete yard behind me, and between 14 and 16 hours bark. Quality of my life's deteriorated. No phone call returned, and essentially, if you don't get the courtesy of a taxpayer return phone call, the city's good efforts that we've demonstrated and heard tonight are for naught. I just ask for a basic consideration. If you take a phone call, return it. I don't have to like the response, but I appreciate the courtesy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow. I have sort of the flip side. It's not entirely dissimilar, but it's a sort of a flip side of the same story that I wanted to talk about tonight. I've got a neighbor up the street who's been renting a house, I think 7 or 8 years, and the guy who owns the house just sort of moved on like a hermit crab and rented the house and doesn't keep it up. And it's had a succession of slab leaks, and basically the house is sinking almost like the Poltergeist house. Walls are coming off. It's all moldy. There's an open pit of water under the bathroom, and so the whole place is and it's right where the AC picks up, so it's blowing black mold all through the house. It's disgusting. The family's been in and out of the hospital for the last couple months. They're basically homeless, living hoping that the renter's insurance is going to come through, but they're living in a hotel. They called everywhere, anywhere and everywhere, county, fair housing, everywhere. They finally got directed to code enforcement here. It did take a few days, but code enforcement did come out. They were the first people who, actually gave a shit and actually said, yeah, I see what you see. And they cited them, and I don't know where we are in the process, but they did do something. This is something that's going to come up more and more and more. Given the housing market that we're in, they didn't know the house was trying to kill them. They just thought that, it's just their dumb luck that their whole family's sick. It's not good. And I can imagine, given the gentleman's comments, it's not easy. We can sit in this room and listen to all the presentations about how great all the services are, but it's daunting for somebody to call from the outside to get a hold of the right person here or anywhere, or even to know where to go. And my neighbor is savvy. She's college educated, degree in environmental sciences. She's very savvy. She's tech savvy. You've met her before, Brooke. So, they're good people trying to do their own thing, and they're stuck, So I wanted to thank code enforcement for coming out, and actually they answered the call, and they actually addressed it. It's getting addressed. I'm hoping that this isn't going to just be, that guy's just going to be able to just screw the stuff up, paint the walls, and the next family's going to get sick. I really hope that this is formally engaged, So I'd also, one other thing briefly, we got a door hanger the other day about Kaiser Solar Project. Last I heard, this was supposed to be a full council conditional use permit kind of a thing. And now it's like, hey, we're going to start working on this in April. Last time they said, oh yeah, we got it all worked out. And then it turns out their solar plant, their study was bullshit. They didn't really actually have an engineer work on it. They just said, yeah, we promise it won't shine on the houses, but they didn't have anything. I'm kind of wondering how this went through with zero city oversight about how this was going to get done. Last few of these came to this room and were discussed and either approved or not approved. This is a matter of feet from residences, maybe 15 feet up, and it got shot down for Walmart because of glare, and this is the same direction at the same angle, shining right on.
Thank you. Ms. Edwards, do we have any more speaker cards?
Mayor, we do, but I don't think he's coming up. I think he came up with the Ramadan gentleman.
Okay, then you said that there was 2 comments that were anonymous that needed to be read in?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
Dear council members, these past 6 months have been some of the most stressful and disturbative days and nights. To describe a few, during the Thanksgiving holiday, my family and I were disturbed because of loud neighbors and constant smoking of marijuana on the side yard. We have also been subject to multiple Airbnb guests who have played loud, explicit music, screaming well into the night with horrible foul language. Recently, the last group had many drop-offs and pickups of several partygoers. Several cars with loud modified exhaust systems would sit and rev their engines for several minutes and then speed up and down the streets on our block at high speed of rate. There were also 5 to 10 cars parked in various times there for several days' stay. The loud engine noise and racing up and down our streets had happened multiple times. Corona Police Department were called and advised of the disturbance. We felt threatened by the activity, especially when they would rev the engines and then videotape us when we would go outside of our homes to observe and talk to our neighbors. We are very disappointed that our quiet little neighborhood has turned into Party Central. Good evening, council members. Our neighborhood continues to suffer and be traumatized by residential house motels, also known as short-term rentals. Houses are for neighbors. Houses are not for constant turnover of partying strangers that come and go all day and night for their vacation fun. The neighborhood is not on vacation. Why would a civilized society allow people to profit off suffering of others? When is the suffering going to be enough for action to be taken to stop it? How bad does it need to get? Because as the weather improves, it will only get worse. Why are we being made to feel that there are problems for not enjoying the nuisance of this motel? This is not a joke. The complaints are valid and warranted. We do not enjoy the complaint process and really do have better things to do with our life. It has now been 6 months of constant trauma. This last weekend was beyond traumatizing. Numerous emails and pictures were sent to code enforcement. Many emails received no response. Is anyone even reading them? The police were also called and did a drive-by. Naturally, timing is everything. This has gone way beyond code violations. This is more about the safety and well-being of the other people that live in the neighborhood. We will all remain in danger of retaliation by both the renters and out-of-state owners. Neighbors were terrified and remain terrified that this last group will return anytime and cause them harm. We were leaving for 15 to 20 minutes, then return just to take off and do it again for hours and hours. All with the vehicles that clearly had modified exhaust systems. The loud muffler was disturbing our peace. They were racing up and down the street with what sounded like gunshots while blasting music throughout the day and night. They continued to walk and scope the neighborhoods and set off alarms. This is throughout the day and night. They continued to walk and scope the neighborhoods and set off car alarms. There's nothing but homes around. They had more than 10 vehicles parked all over the neighborhood, including the neighborhood's driveways, parked diagonally, parked facing the wrong direction, and parked in front of fire hydrants. The vehicles with the gunshot noises was the vehicles they chose to repeat, use, and continue to disturb the peace. Tons of cars pulling up and dropping off people all day and night. Many looked very young. Some of this was even witnessed by code enforcement on Saturday afternoon. It continued for several days at all hours. It looked like more than 50 people came and went Friday through Tuesday. This group completely took over. Neighborhoods couldn't sleep for days and remain exhausted and scared to leave their homes. Neighbors also were frightened to even be home because no one feels safe at this active motel. The peace and enjoyment of our homes that were worked very hard for has now been destroyed. It is the American dream to finally be able to own a home. We remain confused why this is totally inappropriate and necessary nuisance and disturbance and has not been shut down. We are requesting daily and frequent patrol by both Corona Police Department and code enforcement. What is the plan to keep us safe and drive back our lives? We are requesting someone in authority to remain parked on each street where it is allowed. Just a motel. And Mayor, that's the 3 minutes. I will send the minutes to the full city council, the comments.
Thank you. Okay, so we went out a little bit out of order, so now we're going to go back to the consent calendar. All items listed on the consent calendar are considered to be routine matters, status reports, or documents covering previous city council action. The items listed on the consent calendar may be enacted in one motion with the concurrence of the city council. A council member or any person in attendance may request that an item be removed for further consideration. Would my colleagues like any items pulled?
Mr. Mayor, can I pull item number 9, please?
Yep. No, okay. Ms. Edwards, are there any speaker cards from the public?
Mayor, yes, I have a speaker card for agenda item 14.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the motion is going to be for consent items number 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, and then 15 through 23.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, please vote. Okay, those items pass. Item number 9, Councilmember Speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just had one question, Mr. Ellis. I know that we have a shortage in this space, and I just wanted to make sure that in utilizing, I know we've utilized folks in the past in this position. Are they in our review process, or are we getting reviews back or sending out requests for reviews from residents or businesses on the services that we're providing or being provided by these contractors?
Mayor, I think the question is, are we getting like customer service surveys on the consultants that we hire to work on projects?
Yes.
I know that we get reviews done for permits when they're issued. I'm going to ask Joanne Coletta, our Planning and Development Director, to answer this one.
Thank you.
Yeah, so this contract in specifically is for our public works inspection team. So these are for these large land development projects in our CIP projects. So some of them could be city-related projects, and others are larger developments like down in Bedford or a larger commercial center. So this is not necessarily the plan check group, it's the inspection group. So no, we are not having surveys in response to that, this particular group. We don't
Okay.
have surveys in place.
And that was my next question, was that they're only used on either the very large projects, the hotel, the other things we have coming in, and not individual like TIs and other things like that.
No, only if there's some public improvement associated with it or some public infrastructure, then they would get involved, but it's mostly for these larger projects.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you. With that, I'd move. There's no other.
No other questions? I'll second. Did you push the button? Okay, that item passes 4-0. I think the next item was number 14. Someone from the public pulled it?
Someone.
Joe Morgan, 2063 Ren. Sorry for the delay. So we got $800,000-$900,000 to soon be followed by another 20 or 30 million with almost no discussion whatsoever. So for context, this was put into the budget a couple of years ago as a $0 thing. And then the whole water tax hike was wrapped around this one item as an unfinished CIP But we've never even had a fulsome discussion about whether this is even a good idea. This is going to be 20 or 30 million bucks. I think this building, as I recall, was 60 or 80 million dollars. So basically a third of what this whole city hall cost. And we're not even really talking about it. We haven't really decided, whether this is a good idea unless you count one PowerPoint going, oh, it's great. It's great. So we hire consultants who are in the AMI business to tell you how great they are, but never actually have an actual discussion about the nuts and bolts and the costs of all of this and whether we should even do it or not. It's mind-blowing to me that you could enter into a program and a project as large as this with virtually zero discussion about it. Zero, like as far as a substantive discussion. So I'm sure you guys go, hey, he's crazy. He's crazy. I'm crazy. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, item 14, is there a motion?
I'll move.
I'll second. Okay, that item passes 4-0. Okay, we already did communications from the public. Moving on to public hearings. Specific Plan Amendment 2022-0007 to amend the Northeast Corner Specific Plan, SP 81-2, Section 4.5.20 to allow pet boarding and daycare uses in the Support Commercial Freeway, SCF, district with approval of a major conditional use permit and revise Section 4.5.11 to allow the use of alternative fencing materials for commercial developments within the Support Commercial, SC, and Support Commercial Freeway, SCF, districts. Applicant MLJ Resources, LLC, on behalf of Smart Park Luxury Suites and Pet Daycare. Does any council member want a staff report on this item?
No, sir.
Okay. The public hearing is now open. Ms. Edwards, has the city clerk's office received correspondence regarding this item?
Mayor, we did not receive correspondence.
Ms. Edwards, did we receive any speaker cards from the public?
Mayor, we received one speaker card from the applicant, but he just wanted to let the council know that he is available if there are any questions.
Okay. The public hearing is now closed. Do I have any questions or comments from my colleagues?
No, sir.
Okay. And do we have a motion?
Almost. I know I gotta read it.
I'll second it, because you got to read it.
It's B, right? 20.
Yep.
In blue? Okay. Introduced by title only and waive full reading of ordinance number 3367, first reading of an ordinance approving an amendment to the Northeast Corona Specific Plan 81-2 to permit pet boarding and daycare as a conditional use in the Support Commercial Freeway District and to permit alternative fencing materials for commercial developments in the support of commercial and support. Oh, good grief. Commercial Freeway Districts, SPA 2022-007. That's it.
Okay. And please vote. Okay, that item passes 4-0. Moving on to item number 25, public hearing, conditional use permit 2022-0006 to establish a pet boarding and pet daycare facility at 284 DuPont Street, Suites 180 and 1-190 in the Support Commercial Freeway District of the Northeast Corona Specific Plan. Applicant MLJ Resources, LLC, on behalf of Smart Park Luxury Suites and Pet Daycare, not an advertised public hearing. Ms. Edwards, are there any speaker cards from the public?
Mayor, we do not have any speaker cards.
Okay. Would my colleagues like to take no action or set the item for review?
Take no action.
Okay. Got it? Take no action?
Got it. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Administrative reports, there are none. Legislative matters, there are none. Boards and commission reports from city council commissioners and staff for the Library Board of Trustees, there are none. Planning and Housing Commission. The Planning and Housing Commission report, parcel map 38314 to subdivide 0.56 acres into 2 parcels for residential purposes located at 912 Beverly Road in the R2 zone, low-density multifamily resident. Applicant Jeff Meter for Valued Engineering, Inc. on behalf of Javier Villanueva. Ms. Edwards, are there any speaker cards or written comments from the public?
Mayor, I have a speaker card from the applicant. He just wanted to let the council know that he's available if there are any questions.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Please vote. Okay, that item passes 3-1. Okay, item number 27, Planning and Housing Commission Report, Conditional Use Permit 2022-0005 to allow for nonprofit organization ABC Hopes to conduct recreational, social, and educational programs for persons with disabilities in the M2 General Manufacturing Zone located at 183 Commerce Street, Suite 103. Applicant Katie Moore of ABC Hopes, Inc. Ms. Edwards, are there any speaker cards from the public?
Mayor, yes, I have 2 speaker cards. One of the cards is the applicant, also just wants the council to know that he is available if there are any questions.
And the second?
Hey, I wasn't late this time. So I just want to just say how happy I am that this is finally is done. This is a great facility. It's a great thing to add to the community. We've needed a place like this. What I can say is I really wish it was an easier process. I mean, the applicant that I know of had to spend considerable resources to go through the process to, in essence, put rubber mats down in a warehouse. They didn't change the number of people. They didn't change, it was $20,000, $30,000 worth of expense and months of work. Lots of staff time. It shouldn't be this hard. It's kind of like the training place over near the auto center. Same kind of deal, where we already had similar uses that were already allowed in the same thing. There should be a way to do this ministerially. We shouldn't have to go through a full process and cost applicants this much money. I swear this is pushing people out of Corona. This is keeping people from coming here. We could talk about economic development all we want, but this is economic development. Wonderful projects like this, the training facility from the NFL player, these are cool projects, and we're making them jump through the big hoops. When staff can make these decisions, they can formulate criteria and make these decisions, and we don't have to run everybody through the ringer to do this. So I hope that's something we can look at in the future. And meanwhile, in the meantime, I want to welcome ABC Hopes. I know people that go there, and it's a wonderful place. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Would my colleagues like to take no action or set the item for review?
Take no action.
Okay, take no action. Excellent. Okay, Parks and Recreation Commission, there are none. Regional meetings. The regional meeting report is the first one is an update from Councilmember Jackie Casillas on League of California Cities Community Services Committee meeting of March 17th.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the second of 3 meetings that this committee has as it convenes annually. As a reminder, I serve as chair on this statewide committee, and we had a really great a meeting. This last time around, we talked about the universal TK and state preschool funding. We had a presentation from the Legislative Analyst's Office, which is up in Sacramento, and they really they review all legislation and talk about its impact on the state and its impact financially. We also had a universal pre-K initiative update, and this was from the Early Education Division Director. And this was a better understanding of essentially what it is to have universal TK in the state and what it is to have pre-K and its initiatives. Then we went on to take a unanimous vote on both in support of AB 9663 by Chavo, which is the end of the Foster Care to Homelessness Pipeline Act. And we also supported AB 1321 by Bonta, which is the California Coordinated Neighborhood and Community Service Grant Program. These are they're both grants to help essentially lift up some of our hardest hit and most vulnerable communities. Lastly, we had a discussion about homeless accountability. The state is having conversations about how it is that, along with resources, we hold communities accountable for resources. And so the state really wants to tie funding to results. And us as city leaders are like, wait a second, you can't have a conversation about what results are without us at the table. So this was a very, very engaged discussion. And what we recommended was, one, that the state absolutely cannot move forward having conversations about tying accountability with funding if we don't have a say about what accountability looks like. Because if all they want to talk about are, reduction in like point in time counts, then you're missing the nuances. And we know that here in the city of Corona, right? We can talk about street exits, and street exits are actually people. We're not talking about numbers, and there's a lot of things that a city can't influence, but then there are things that a city can do. And so we want all of that holistic approach, all the good work that's going into addressing homelessness to be considered when the state is having conversations about accountability. And those are recommendations, and they're going straight into League of Cities advocacy in Sacramento. And we adjourned, and our next meeting is actually going to be in person. Our third and final meeting will be in person in June in the city of Pomona.
Thank you.
I've got the next one too.
Yep, the regional meeting report update from Councilmember Jackie Casillas on IREN meeting of March 21st.
Yeah, thank you. So this, again, is a regional energy network, and this is, as a reminder, is a new formulated body that is essentially just bringing the resources that our ratepayers are already paying into. We are all already paying this rate, and in the past, the Inland Empire was put at the same table with Los Angeles County, and the funds were going basically only to LA. So the IE, San Bernardino County, Riverside County, decided to band together, put in this request to have our own network, and therefore get our dollars back to our community. And that's what this initiative is. And so at this last meeting, we had an update on our strategic plan. We also talked about workforce, education, and training sector update with the IREN Energy Fellowship Program. And something I really pushed for is that I see this gap in a lot of these fellowships. Some of these fellowships are offered, mostly to college students, but there aren't a lot of fellowship programs offered to people who are either, in certificated programs or maybe just not on the college track. And so what I'm pushing for with this IREN network is that there's a little bit of funding there. And I want us to use that strategically to grow this fellowship program and provide workforce training and work pathways for folks who are not on a traditional education path. And therefore, ideally, get more and more people to live, work, play here in our communities in well-paying and almost like future-proof jobs. We had reporting, and then we had a couple of other just sausage-making stuff that isn't as big of a deal, but I enjoyed. So anyway, more to come, all really good things. There's just a lot of discussions as we continue the ground setting, but it's looking good, and I'm just happy that we finally have this network where, again, our dollars are staying here.
Love it. Okay. And
last one's mine too.
The next one, all right. The next regional meeting report is an update from Councilmember Jackie Casillas on the Western Riverside County of Governments WRCOG meeting of April 3rd.
Yes, thank you. Okay, and this was a very straightforward meeting as well. This happened just on Monday. We also had an approval of the strategic plan for WRCOG, discussing items and affirming, the current vision. Again, the WRCOG has gone through a lot of internal staff changes. We have a new and exciting executive director that's been there now, I think, over a year, and he's made a lot of really great progress in just transparency and where it is that the COG is moving. And this is the Western Riverside Council of Government. So all of the cities west of, we have Beaumont, and I think we have Banning. Yeah, Banning and Beaumont. So they're all part of this Council of Government. And one of the concerns in the conversation at Monday's meeting was scope creep, because WRCOG has inched into some projects and gotten into a little bit of trouble in the past. And so the discussion was, we need to be really, really mindful about what our strategy is, what our plan is for the next couple of years, and not do that again and learn from our mistakes. And so, it's this body having a discussion, as electeds often do, where we're all kind of saying the same thing in different ways. And so it took a long time to get there. But ultimately, we voted and affirmed the strategic plan and are, fiscally solvent, just having the same hard conversations as everybody else is about, do we build in escalators? Do we reassess formulas? And we're going to likely have some tough conversations down the road.
Sounds like fun.
A lot of fun. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Okay. Next is, let's see, the regional meeting report. Update from Councilmember West Speak on the Riverside County Transportation Commission, RCTC Western Programs meeting of March 27th.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There was a quick meeting. We combined actually we have a 15 ad hoc committee as well, meeting that happened at the same time. And the subject of that meeting was to how we were going to proceed with the southern extension of the express lanes. The last time we had met, the RCTC staff had said that basically it was impossible to build 2 lanes in each direction and take care of some loan issues that we have from the federal government. Lo and behold, there's a bill called SB 617 that's called Progressive Design Build, and they are going to build in 3 segments, still the same 2 lanes, but that first segment will go from Cajalco to Indian Truck Trail, which should help move the line down a little bit, and then the next 2 segments we've built over the next 5 years as they accumulate the $650 million needed to proceed with that project. One of the things we voted on in that meeting as well was to prioritize paying of our TIFIA, federal TIFIA loan. $152 million is left right now. And why that's important is that any changes they do on the 15 have to be run against revenue to see whether or not it changes revenue. So it would potentially slow down any improvements on the toll lane side. And we're prioritizing to pay that off in the next 18 months so it doesn't affect, any of the changes they're proposing would affect that. The Western Programs meeting, it was primarily just ratifying the agreement that we have the SBCTA to, when they build their toll lane on the 15, that it would connect to Riverside County's portion. And they've agreed to have the same toll policy, the same back office, so customers don't see a difference. Construction on that project, which is basically just past where it goes to a single lane, will go to a double lane, and will continue on into San Bernardino County, is scheduled to start in May of 2023. That's it.
Will they also have the same dynamic pricing?
Yes, be the same dynamic pricing as the 15.
Excellent. Okay, the next regional meeting report is an update from Councilmember West Speak on the Riverside County Transportation Commission, RCTC, State Route 91 Advisory Committee, meeting of March 30th, 2023.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a meeting, I'm an appointee for RCTC. It's the equal members of RCTC and OCTA that agree to discuss toll policy and projects that intersect both. They shared a lot of numbers, and my gosh, the packet was about 1.5 inches thick.
You must have loved that.
I did. I had lots of numbers in it. The big numbers that I thought were really fascinating was that they had a 19 million trips in OCTA in that time versus last year. 16 million Riverside County. Both of them up over 1 million from 2019, which is pretty amazing. The more interesting part was the revenue on the OCTA side was about 60 million. In the Riverside County section, it was 64 million. So $4 million more and almost 3 million less trips. So it tells you something.
Dynamic pricing.
There you go. But however, actually on the 91, they don't use dynamic pricing. They were using time of day pricing. However, one of the changes that we advocated for a few months back was to go to dynamic pricing on the 91. And so this group ratified the decision to do so, and OCTA is going to be doing the same thing. What that does is that actually will lower the overall price of the toll lanes and make it more precise. And they were actually both projecting an average toll rate to go down, I think around 8%. There was also a shift in travel. Right now, the heaviest days, as you imagine, would be Thursday and Friday. They'd be the heaviest days in the toll lanes. However, up until just last month, the second heaviest day besides Friday was Saturday, which is pretty fascinating to see that change. There were a couple of state laws that were signed into effect last year that gave veterans discounts, that folks that have disabled placards or have Purple Heart placards, that they get to travel for free on the 91. So those processes are being programmed. And a little shout out to the call center, the 91 for the entire route. Their call center is in the city of Corona over on Joy and Grand, and they handled 30,000 calls a month.
From angry drivers?
30,000 calls a month. They actually got a 4.9 out of 5 stars on all their reviews, and they answered their call within a minute, which is pretty impressive. Wow. Folks that do that there. And that's all I had. Thank you.
Did OCTA indicate a date when they will start the dynamic pricing?
It's supposed to start, I think, June or July.
Oh, good for summer drivers.
Yeah.
Okay, next regional meeting report is an update from Vice Mayor Tom Richens on the Riverside Transit Agency RTA board meeting of March 23rd, 2023.
Thank you, Mayor. As some of you have might noticed, Salt Lake Steiner isn't here tonight, so I'm taking over. I'm reporting on the RTA, which if you ever go to this meeting, you will be thoroughly bored. There is 3 notes of mention. The first is the board-approved agency, a 3-year sustainable plan. And what that means is Corona will see frequency or more bus routing on Route 1, which is basically 6th Street. And then the second note that was passed on to me is that there's going to be free rides on the buses on Earth Day, and that's April 22nd. And then last but not least, RTA is taking steps to pursue renewable clean hydrogen. So they're doing the Lord's work over there, and that concludes my report.
Thank you very much.
Lord's work, check.
Yep. The last regional meeting report is an update from myself on the Western Riverside County Regional Conservation Authority RCA meeting of April 3rd, 2023. And let me tell you, it was a doozy. It was the most argumentative / combative meeting that I have been in the entire time, and I absolutely loved it. The basis, there's a couple things before we get into the argumentative part. They did our state and federal legislative update. RCA staff provided the update. They went to the Sacramento in early March, and basically there's no good news that came out of that meeting. The state's going to cut $6 million of the $36 million budget for conservation because of a projected $22 billion budget shortfall in the state. The RCA committee also went to Washington, D.C. for the federal update National Coalition and pretty much the same answer as far as budget shortfalls for conservation. Ann Mayer, our executive director, said that the outlook is not great for the state and federal budgets when it comes to allocating money for conservation. The poppy bloom in Lake Forest due to weather conditions, or I'm sorry, not Lake Forest, Lake Elsinore, is going to be an extended season. It's still closed, so please, they are ticketing people left and right on the 15 freeway. California Highway Patrol is ticketing people because people are pulling over to take pictures. Please do not pull over and take pictures. You're causing traffic jams on the 15. The argumentative part that was a lot of fun was RCA has come to the realization that the MSHCP has a flaw in it when it comes to developers utilizing the Hans development portion of the MSHCP, where developers are now saying they're going to develop land that the RCA has deemed land for conservation. And what that does is it triggers the RCA to have to purchase the land at the highest and best use. And and as you can imagine, there are projects that the RCA is looking to have to purchase that are now very, very, very expensive. And it comes down to us realizing that if there isn't an amendment to the MSHCP very soon, that the RCA could very realistically become insolvent very soon due to not having the money to purchase these Hans developed projects that are requiring us to purchase it at the highest and best use.
Good job, Tony.
Yeah, so I expect next month's meeting to be just as spirited, if you will. We'll just use that term, in order to really get the RCA staff to look at ways to amend the MSHCP so that we can prevent running out of money for conservation. So that was very, very, very interesting meeting. So more to come on that. Ms. Edwards, are there any speaker cards from the public on the regional updates?
Mayor, we do not have any speaker cards.
Okay. City Attorney reports and comments. Do we have any comments?
Just that the council met in closed session on agenda item number 2. There was no reportable action, and the council did not meet on item number 1. That will be rescheduled.
Thank you. City Manager's reports. Do we have any comments?
No, Mayor, thank you.
Okay. Looks like the City Council member reports and comments. Item number 35, City Council member report, advanced travel request for Vice Mayor Tom Richins to attend the 2023 California Annual Peace Officers Memorial.
Can I take over there?
Yeah.
All right. The agenda gets published on Thursday, and it didn't take long before Steiner called and said, hey, we're not reimbursing this trip. So he goes every year, or at least he went last year, and he paid his way, and he let me know that. And I found out through the grapevine that Wes is going, and he's paying his own way. And with that in spirit, I don't think it's fair that I ask the city to pay, so I'm going to withdraw my request. But I wanted to do it publicly, and if anybody wants to come up and yell at me, I fully understand. But that's where it's at.
Okay. Since this item has been removed by the Vice Mayor, do we have any speaker cards?
Mayor, no, we do not.
Okay, so because it's been removed, there's no motion needed, correct?
Correct. It'll be noted in the meeting minutes.
Got it. Okay. Item number 36, the City Council appointment of Southern California Association of Governments, SCAG, General Assembly Delegate and Alternate for the SCAG General Assembly meeting of May 4th and 5th, 2023. Councilmember Speak, I'm assuming you're going?
Yes, I'm on the Transportation Committee, so I'll be there anyway.
Okay. Does anybody want to volunteer for the alternate?
Only if you can guarantee that you'll be there.
Of course, I'm always there.
Okay, then I will be his alternate.
Okay, so the council has appointed Councilmember Speak as the delegate, and the alternate is Councilmember Casillas. And Ms. Edwards, are there any speaker cards from the public on this appointment?
Mayor, we do not have any speaker cards.
Fantastic. Team effort. Good job, guys. Next is the appointment to the Planning and Housing Commission. Councilmember Casillas to announce her appointment.
Yes, thank you. So as we all know, Commissioner Diana Meza completed her commitment and had served well and with heart, and I'm just so grateful for her and for her service on the Planning and Housing Commission. So then we opened it up for applicants, and I actually wanted to move a commissioner from a different commission position to serve. So my nomination for the Planning and Housing Commission to replace Ms. Meza is Mr. Dominic Veretti, who's currently serving as commissioner on our Parks and Recreation Commission.
Excellent.
And you're familiar with Mr. Veretti and all of his great work, so I feel like I don't need to, go
I'll make
into
the
it.
motion.
He's awesome.
Second the motion.
Okay, so who made the motion?
I think I made the motion.
Okay,
If not, I will.
I'll second the motion.
Too late.
okay. Ms. Edwards, are there any speaker cards from the public for the appointment?
Mayor, we do not have any speaker cards.
Okay, and as the motion has already been made and seconded, can we please vote? Okay, that item passes 4-0. Next is the appointment to fill the vacant Parks and Recs Commission.
So with Commissioner Veretti now moving to the Planning and Housing Commission, I would like to nominate Ms. Stacy Toyofukuwaki Bass as commissioner to the Parks and Recreation Commission. And she's actually here tonight, and I'd love to invite her to the microphone to say a few words. And as she's walking up, Ms. Bass is currently the CEO of Boost Training and also the president of their nonprofit. She's an accomplished professional, a mom to a young daughter, and a local Coronan. So I'm very, very proud to nominate her to the commission.
Thank you. Did you want to say a few words?
I did. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
I just want to say thank you for having me here, and I'm really excited. I met with Dr. Turner last week. Like Jackie mentioned, I grew up in Corona, so childhood, elementary, middle school, high school, graduated from Centennial, left for a bit down in San Diego, and now I'm back. And I've worked in various capacities with the Parks and Rec Department in the past. So it was really nice to be there and meet with Dr. Turner and see kind of the behind the scenes of the staff from a different perspective. And it seems like a really exciting time to be involved with the Parks and Rec with so many different master plans going on. So I'm really excited to serve.
Excellent. We're going to have to work on that name because I am impressed that you were able to say that.
I went to school with Stacey's older sister, so
I think she's had some practice.
I've had some practice.
She is definitely the person that we all look to when we can't pronounce any of the names. So thank you so much. Ms. Edwards, are there any speaker cards from the public for the appointment?
Mayor, we do not have any speaker cards.
Okay. Did you want to make the motion?
I will move and press the button before Tom does.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Late.
So happy you guys are pressing buttons. Okay, please vote. Okay, excellent. That passes 4-0, and congratulations to Mr. Veretti on his appointment to the Planning and Housing Commission, and Ms. Bass. That one's easy enough to pronounce, to the Parks and Recs Commission. We look forward to great things from you, so thank you. Do my colleagues have any comments? Mr. Speak.
Of course.
For a moment, there was a glimmer of hope.
Come on, good luck. Good luck with that.
Oh, in general.
I was remiss, I didn't get in my notice I did attend the Housing and Economic Development, the League of Cities, and it was quite spirited. Tom, you would have really enjoyed it. The only thing we voted on, it took us 3.5 hours of arguing. There was 3 ties. And we ended up tabling the item because we wouldn't go forward. And this was a discussion about whether or not the league was going to support a bill by my not best friend, Senator Wiener, and it's called SB4, and it was housing development that would be by right.
He is a wiener.
For higher education institutions, religious institutions, and basically anybody that called themselves a school. So the very first vote was to flat oppose the bill, and I voted no, and it tied 21-21. I motioned that I would oppose unless amended, which is a little bit of a tweak. If they just excluded, private schools and any sports schools, and I couldn't get a second. Then there was a support for carving out some churches and some other things. I voted no. It failed 24-17. The third, I made a motion. It was seconded to clarify some parking, make sure that CEQA would apply, exclude private schools, and that failed 16-23. And the fourth and fifth motions were clarifications on parking and excluding private schools and clarifications on one of the other Senate bills, and that tied 19-19, and people got sick of it. So it was good to hear both sides, and I was bummed that we lost, but I'm also very happy to see that there were folks that were interested in having the conversation and pushing it forward, to trying to push back a little bit. And I think that it's quite the difference, because I've sat on this committee now for 3 years, and when there was an issue like this, it would be a close vote, but I would always lose. So it was nice to hear some discussion. On to my comments. I asked, I think the last meeting, I talked about the revenues for the 91 and the 15. I was able to get real numbers. Revenues from the 15 from 2017 to 2022 was $280 million. They've added expensive as $150 million. That leaves basically a pretty big chunk of money left over. However, they have, as they agreed to do, put the money back into the corridor. $6.5 million for the auxiliary lane on the 15 or on the 91, the 91 15 interchange that took $90 million. The 241-91 project that OCTA and Toll Roads is doing got $3 million, and refinancing the loan cost about $5 million. There is some money that's left over, and that's currently being funneled back into the corridor. So I'm glad that's happening. It's not being used to pay back Measure A, and my personal opinion to give money back to the eastern side of the county. On the 15 toll lanes, the revenues have been $42 million, and most of them have been generated at Calco. Expenses have been approximately $13 million, and there'll be a chunk of change that will go into finishing the I-15 corridor operations project that will start probably sometime next year. But I was at the 15 ad hoc and the 91 meeting, and I sat next to one of the new chief of operations from Caltrans, and I chided him over several things of them not doing and things I wish they would do differently. And he confessed to me that there was a project that just got approved. And he said that when he first saw it, he thought of me, because I complain a lot about, and pushing for auxiliary lanes in the 15, that going back to 2019, when we really encouraged and pushed Caltrans to do a study of the entire 15 from the 91 to Temescal Canyon Road. And they have agreed, and they have funded a project. It's not as big as I would hope, but it's funding a auxiliary lane from the southbound side between Old Temescal Canyon Bridge and Ontario. It's about a half a mile. He said basically if they were going to do it over the bridge, they would need some additional money they didn't have. He's pledged to keep working with us. I know that he's talked to Director Compu quite a bit. He's working with him on Ontario undercrossing and several other areas, and told me how lucky we were to have the director with us, and he's with his good relationship with Caltrans. And I was really happy to see that push forward. That will be going out to bid in spring of 2027, if not sooner. But all that work is doing, and I'm really happy to be able to report that. And then last but not least, two things, one more thing. I was invited to go speak at SCE to talk about our government relations and how well we work with Edison now compared to what we were several years ago, when they weren't technically allowed in the building. And it was nice to get in a room with them, talk to some of the other government relations people, and kind of tell the great story. And then last but not least, there was, do you have my clip? You know, not too often we get to say that a local hometown guy gets to play in the major leagues. Bryce Turang is a graduate of the class of 2018 from Santiago High School. Mom and dad, super great people. His sisters are amazing athletes, played world-class college softball. In fact, I think one of them has, I think, two college world championships. But their little brother, and I remember seeing him run around as a little kid, you know, grabbing a bat and not being able to go out. He gets his very first at bat as a Milwaukee Brewer. And go ahead and push play.
That's his very first at bat? Wow.
So, I mean, pretty awesome that your first at bat, you hit a home run, but not only that, you hit a grand slam. So super proud of him and super proud of his family. And there's a great shot of his mom at the end, tears, yelling and screaming. So it was really cool. So that's it. Thank you.
Oh, that's very cool. Councilmember Casillas.
I just have one comment. I think I'll save it to the very end, so you'll come back to me.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. There were some citizens here that came tonight. The first because they're having problems with some short-term rentals, and then the other gentleman that was talking about his neighbors. And I don't think anybody ever wants to hear problems, but it's important that citizens know that this is a place that they can come when there are problems. And from my vantage point, after the citizens spoke, I watched the police chief get up and start working on it, and I watched Joanne Coletta get up and start working on it. And it's admirable, and I believe they'll find solutions. But I just want to say thank you to the citizens that showed up and are putting their faith in the city by asking. Next, a little over a week ago, we had a meeting at Maddie's place, her complex, and it was about rent stabilization. And I showed up, and Cynthia Lara was there, and I didn't know how good of a speaker she is. She has jumped into this rent stabilization, and she's put her heart into it. I don't even know how she feels about it, but I just know that she's put her heart into it and doing the due diligence. And then I saw her the next day at the Historic Civic Center. We're trying to find some plumbing for the Corona Art Association. And again, I can probably guess she could care less about plumbing. But she put her heart into it, and it's just really cool when you can see that, and I appreciate it. And I'm sure you all love her as well. Next is, and Maddie loves her, and Joe, and Don, and everyone. Next is, we took a tour of the homeless shelter this last Saturday. I hope that's not the thing you're talking about, Jackie. But I don't know if you've ever met Karen Roper, but if you really want to feel like you're not qualified at your job because someone does her job better than you do your job, just go spend 15 minutes with Karen Roper. She trapped us in a room and twice, a few times, and then she just goes a million miles an hour and tells us all these wins for getting to zero functional homelessness. And then she tells us we can't tell anybody what they are. So, which is hard for me because I want to brag, but you guys are just gonna have to wait a couple months. So, but the homeless shelter is coming online. It's beautiful, and it's gonna. Well, you already know it's a great thing for the city. Last is it was my daughter's out of town this this week, and she texts me all day long and hearts and stuff, and she texted me tonight that she's watching council meeting. So I told her I'd give her a shout out. And just a quick story. She had a birthday last month, and someone gave her a plushie, a dog, and she said, "I'm gonna name it Rena." And I was just like, and she doesn't know what Rena numbers are, and I'm like, you can't name it Rena. That's just a horrible name. And so now I have this damn dog in the house that we call Rena. So it's a plushie, but I have to sleep with it. It gets put in my bed, and so I don't want to give out the shout out to Rena, but I do want to give the shout out to Riverbell. And that's my comments. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Yes, the tour of the shelter was phenomenal. We all have been pushing to get that open, and it's actually happening, and it's going to be a fantastic piece of our homeless strategic plan. And Vice Mayor Richens is correct. There was so much information. Poor Jackie was trying to keep notes, and the fingers were going furiously trying to keep up with Ms. Roper, so it was great. I attended the Emprendedores, did I say that right? Yes, graduation on March 30th. It was great. It was held all in Spanish, and if it wasn't for Ms. Gonzalez telling me, oh, that's your cue to go and speak, I'd be lost. But it was great to see all of these hardworking folks that have invested in themselves. And a lot of them are opening businesses right here in Corona. They had a little business fair in the multipurpose room, so you got to see what they were doing. And there's a lot of really cool, innovative stuff coming into Corona from these entrepreneurs that are taking a chance on themselves. Same day after that, I went upstairs and sat in on the Trails Working Group meeting. And again, a lot of good stuff going on up there. I'm definitely glad that I am not part of that working group because they are very motivated hikers. And that is something that they are passionate about. So it was great to see a passionate group that are really working with the city on that. I had the opportunity to attend the first of this season, Ramadan Iftar, in the city of Chino at the Ahmadiyya Mosque in Chino, and it was a wonderful event. Got to listen to a lot of great stories about what their journey is to them. Let's see, on April 2nd, we have in the city of Corona, right off of the 91 freeway, right off of Pomona Road, I attended a grand opening of a new business called Futures. And when we talk about, oh, I'm sorry, you were there too. That's correct. Vice Mayor Richens and I attended the grand opening of Futures, which is a baseball training facility. And as a dad of a baseball player trying to figure out how to play the game, because that wasn't something that I ever did growing up. I played every other sport but baseball. It was eye-opening to see. This is a world-class training facility right here in the city of Corona. We have other world-class training facilities, but this one is specifically for the sport of baseball and softball, and just seeing the way that they are integrating technology into their training. It was amazing, just the use of sensors and all the different things that they have available. Like your video clip earlier today, I would expect that this facility will produce Major League Baseball players and Major League Softball players. Lots of college scholarships will be coming out of this facility, and it's really really great to see that they have invested in Corona as well. Last night, attended the fast pitch competition as a judge. What a great event it was. There really was not a lot of difference between 1 and 2. And when we were deliberating, we had talked about changing the dollar amounts to kind of reflect that. And then at the last minute, apparently another $1,000 was added to the prize pool. So that's just absolutely great. both of those names, the first place winner Guava and the second place winner Gen Innovation, definitely keep your eye on those. You will definitely see those in the future. So it was this little break was really nice, except we had a lot of stuff that we had to do. So that being said, I'm going to announce that the next meeting is going to be April 13th, 2023.
But don't adjourn.
I was getting there.
Okay.
However, the adjournment is going to come after some comments from Councilmember Casillas.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it. I wanted to adjourn tonight in honor of a very special man. This past Saturday, we tragically lost Riverside Fire Captain Tim Strack. Oh, no, I'm getting emotional. Okay. His impact went far beyond the city of Riverside, where he served with distinction for 28 years, 21 years of which he also served as president of the Firefighters Association. Tim had a really big heart. He had a big personality, and he had an even bigger laugh. His passing is a tremendous loss. He loved his city. He loved being a firefighter. He loved being a husband and a father. And he's widely adored and will be greatly missed. I remember the first time I met Tim. It's a story that I probably can't share publicly, but I do remember. That's a story, yeah, I'll be sure to share after. But I also remember just an example of his tremendous courage and how he connected with people so instinctively. I was driving home one night, witnessed a car accident, a pretty bad car accident in Riverside off of Alessandro, pulled over to assist, and it was two women who essentially, T-boned, one of which was a young woman, pregnant young woman who was deaf. And thankfully, everyone walked out of their cars. And I stuck around, and Riverside Fire, responded within minutes, and Tim immediately showed up. It was his area to cover, and immediately went into firefighter / concerned citizen / fire / dad mode, and to take care of this young woman and ensure that she understood what was going on and talk to her father and get her the care that she needed. And it was just really beautiful to witness. So anyhow, Tim leaves behind his beautiful wife, Wendy. There are 3 children, Madeline, Isabella, and Justin. And our thoughts and prayers are with his family and those who are mourning his loss. And so I just wanted to adjourn tonight's meeting in his honor.